You know that feeling when you walk into a room and suddenly you're hit with invisible data streams from every direction? Micro-expressions you didn't ask to notice, tension between two people that nobody else seems to see. The exact moment when someone's energy shifts from genuine to performative. If you're nodding along right now, you might be running the most sophisticated psychological operating system on the planet. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 parallel processes that explain why your brain feels like it's constantly overloaded. This isn't mysticism or personality horoscopes. This is systematic processing that would make artificial intelligence jealous. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you're looking for a deeper understanding of yourself and your INFJ personality, browse our favorite INFJ products in the description, and click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. Process 1. The social data stream. Let's start with the first process that's running in your mind 24/7. The social data stream. While most people walk into a situation and notice what's happening on the surface, your brain is downloading information at a completely different level. You're automatically scanning for patterns in human behavior that others completely miss. The way someone's jaw tightens when a certain name gets mentioned. The person who's being subtly excluded from the group conversation. The shift in energy when someone walks into the room. The micro-expression that flashes across someone's face before they compose themselves. Here's what makes this fascinating. You're not consciously choosing to do this analysis. It's like how you don't think about balancing while you walk. Your brain just handles it automatically. Except instead of physical balance, you're maintaining social awareness at a level that would overwhelm most people. This creates a strange reality where you can be standing completely silent next to someone, and you're actually processing more about the social dynamics than the person who's talking the most. You're running parallel analysis on what's being said, what's not being said, what people are feeling, and what the long-term implications might be. The exhaustion comes from the fact that the system never turns off. Even when you're trying to have a normal conversation, your brain is simultaneously tracking group dynamics, analyzing authenticity levels, and predicting how interactions might unfold. It's like trying to have a casual chat while also monitoring 17 different security cameras. Most of this processing stays locked inside your head. You might sense that someone's about to make a terrible decision, or that a relationship is heading toward crisis, or that someone in your circle doesn't actually have good intentions. But you won't share these insights unless someone asks directly, because you're acutely aware that your perception might be wrong, or your timing might be off. So you carry this knowledge internally, watching events unfold exactly as you predicted. You see the relationship problems before they surface. You notice the workplace dynamics that will cause issues months later. You sense when someone's being inauthentic, even when they're trying their best to be genuine. The isolation of this is profound. You can be surrounded by people and feel completely alone, because nobody else is experiencing this constant social data analysis. Nobody else is aware of the patterns you're seeing. Nobody else understands why you're concerned about something that hasn't even happened yet. What makes it worse is when you're right. You see the problem coming. You try to warn someone subtly, and then the problem arrives exactly as you predicted. But you rarely say, "I told you so," because that's not the point. The point is that you're living in a state of perpetual awareness of human complexity and potential failure. This system makes you exceptionally good at preventing disasters, maintaining relationships, and helping people avoid their blind spots. You become the person others turn to when they need someone who really sees what's happening. But the cost to your own mental energy is substantial. You start organizing your social life around managing this data stream. You choose smaller gatherings over large parties, because fewer people means less information to process. You prefer one-on-one conversations, because you can focus your analysis instead of splitting it across multiple social threads. The really challenging part is that most people don't understand why social situations drain you so much. They see you functioning normally and assume you're just being antisocial when you need alone time. They don't realize that your brain has been working overtime just to exist in social spaces. Learning to work with this system instead of against it means accepting that you're going to see things others don't. It means trusting your social intuition even when you can't fully explain it. And it means protecting your energy by being strategic about when and how you engage socially. Process 2. The emotional mirror system. The second process running in your system is even more demanding than the social data stream. It's what I call the emotional mirror system, and it operates like involuntary absorption and reflection of everyone's emotional states around you. When you're near someone who's struggling, something activates in your brain that's almost automatic. You don't just notice their pain, you absorb it. You start feeling their anxiety in your chest. Their sadness becomes a weight you carry. Their frustration starts buzzing in your nervous system, even when they haven't said a word about what they're going through. But here's where it gets intense. Your brain doesn't just absorb these emotions, it immediately starts generating solutions. You begin imagining how you can help. You start planning what to say at the right moment. You reorganize your schedule around making that person feel better. You think about their problems when you're supposed to be focusing on your own life. This isn't happening because you have low self-esteem or because you're codependent in the traditional sense. Your brain is literally wired to see emotional problems and want to fix them. It's like asking someone why they breathe. The question doesn't make sense because it's just what your system does automatically. The emotional mirror system works so efficiently that you often know how someone's feeling before they do. You pick up on the subtle shift in their energy that signals they're about to have a breakdown. You sense the disappointment they're carrying about something they haven't even mentioned. You feel the loneliness they're hiding behind their social media posts. This creates a strange dynamic where you become a walking emotional support system for everyone around you. People gravitate toward you when they're struggling because somehow you make them feel seen and understood. You reflect back their emotions in a way that helps them process what they're going through. But the system has a fatal flaw. It assumes that if you give this much emotional energy, you'll eventually receive similar support in return. It assumes that people will notice how much you care and reciprocate. It assumes that relationships will deepen over time in a way that matches your deepening investment. When these assumptions prove wrong, when people don't notice or don't reciprocate or simply can't match your emotional intensity, you experience profound hurt because you're very aware of how much you've invested. You often feel foolish or resentful. You start questioning whether you're too much for people. The catastrophe happens when you realize you can't actually fix anyone. You can't make someone choose to be happy. You can't force someone to see their own value. You can't repair a broken relationship through sheer force of good intentions. When that realization hits, it hits like a psychological earthquake. Most people don't see this struggle because you rarely show it outwardly. You keep showing up. You keep helping. You keep trying. But internally, you're experiencing a slow grief. You're mourning the gap between what you hoped would happen and what's actually happening. You're blaming yourself for not being enough to bridge that gap. Then one day, and it often seems sudden to outsiders, you just stop. You cut the person off. You end the relationship. You walk away. Everyone's shocked because you seemed fine up until that moment. But the truth is, you hit your emotional capacity months ago. You just finally admitted it to yourself. What this really means is that your love isn't conditional on behavior. It's conditional on mutual effort toward growth. The moment you sense that someone isn't actually willing to change or grow, the moment you realize you're pouring energy into a void, something inside you switches. It's not anger, it's clarity, and it's final. The emotional mirror system makes you incredibly valuable to the people who appreciate depth and authenticity. But it also makes you vulnerable to people who take emotional support without giving it back. Learning to manage this system means recognizing when you're approaching capacity and protecting yourself before you hit the breaking point. Process 3. The future mapping engine. The third process running constantly in your system might be the most exhausting of all. It's what I call the future mapping engine. and it operates like continuous scenario analysis and risk assessment happening in the background of your mind. While most people live primarily in the present moment, your brain is simultaneously running projections about what could happen next. You walk into tomorrow's meeting and you're already imagining 17 different ways it could go sideways. You start a conversation with someone and you're already considering how your words might be misinterpreted 3 responses from now. This isn't pessimism or negativity. It's your intuition running constant probability calculations. You see someone making a choice, and you're immediately aware of consequences they haven't considered yet. You watch a friendship develop, and you're already identifying the potential fault lines that could cause it to fracture later. The future mapping engine operates so efficiently that you often know how situations will unfold before they actually happen. You sense that someone's new relationship won't work out, based on subtle compatibility issues you notice early on. You predict workplace conflicts months before they surface, because you can see how different personalities and priorities are going to clash. Because you see these potential futures, you automatically take steps to prevent the negative ones. You'll rewrite an email 7 times to make sure it can't be misunderstood. You'll have difficult conversations preemptively because you sense a problem developing. You'll organize your entire life around preventing disasters that exist only in your projections. This creates a strange reality where you're constantly managing risks that other people don't even see. You're preparing for problems that haven't happened yet. You're solving conflicts before they emerge. You're building safety nets for scenarios that might never occur. The isolation of this process is profound. You can be stressed about something that hasn't even happened, while everyone around you thinks you're worrying about nothing. You see 17 ways the day could go wrong, and nobody else is aware of even one potential problem. You understand why you're anxious, but you can't explain it without sounding paranoid. What makes this particularly challenging is when your predictions prove accurate. You see the problem coming. You try to warn someone, and they dismiss your concerns. Then, the problem arrives exactly as you predicted, and you're left with this hollow feeling of being right about something you desperately wanted to be wrong about. You rarely say, "I told you so," because that's not why you make these predictions. You're not trying to prove how smart you are. You're trying to help people avoid unnecessary pain. But when your warnings go unheeded and the consequences unfold as expected, you feel this deep frustration about living in a world where people don't seem to learn from patterns. The future mapping engine makes you exceptionally good at strategic planning, risk management, and helping others avoid their blind spots. You become the person others consult when they're making important decisions, because somehow you can see angles they missed. You excel at project management because you anticipate problems before they derail progress, but the mental cost is substantial. You're carrying the weight of potential futures that may never happen. You're experiencing anxiety about scenarios that exist only in your projections. You're organizing your life around preventing problems that other people don't even know are possible. This system also explains why you sometimes seem paralyzed by small decisions. When you're choosing a restaurant, your brain isn't just considering food preferences. It's analyzing how the choice affects group dynamics, what message it sends about your personality, and what it reveals about your values. Every decision becomes weighted with implications that others don't see. Learning to work with the future mapping engine means accepting that you're going to see potential problems that others miss. It means trusting your intuitive projections while also recognizing that not every negative scenario you imagine will actually occur. Most importantly, it means protecting your mental energy by choosing which futures are worth your active concern and which ones you can simply acknowledge and release. The System Integration Challenge. Now here's where things get really complex. When you're running all 3 of these processes simultaneously, social data stream, emotional mirror system, and future mapping engine, something fascinating and exhausting happens. You develop what I call decision paralysis. For the smallest choices, combined with absolute certainty for the big ones. Let me explain what I mean. You can spend 20 minutes deciding what to order at a restaurant because your brain is processing multiple layers of information. What does this choice say about you? How will it affect the group dynamic? What if someone judges your selection? What if you pick something that slows down the table? What if your choice reveals something about your personality that you're not ready to share? Meanwhile, that same brain can make massive life decisions with shocking clarity and speed. You'll decide to end a relationship that looked perfect from the outside. You'll leave a career you spent years building. You'll move across the country. You'll start a project everyone thinks is impossible. And once you make these big decisions, you don't second-guess yourself, because you've already processed every angle internally. This creates a strange pattern, where people see you as indecisive about trivial things, but unnaturally certain about life-changing choices. What they don't understand is that for small decisions, your three systems are all running analysis simultaneously, creating information overload. For big decisions, those same systems reach consensus, and you experience absolute clarity. The integration challenge becomes even more complex when your authenticity detector kicks in. This is like a fourth process that emerges from the combination of the other three. You develop an almost supernatural ability to sense when someone isn't being genuine, and it becomes impossible to ignore, even when you desperately want to. You'll meet someone and immediately sense something off about their energy. They're saying all the right things, but your system detects micro-inconsistencies. Their words don't match their body language. Their story has gaps that don't quite add up. Their performance of themselves feels slightly different from who they actually are. And this detection happens whether you want it to or not. This authenticity detector creates an interesting problem. You might seem unfriendly or judgmental to people because you're unconsciously reacting to sensing inauthenticity. But you're not actually judging them for being fake. Most people perform versions of themselves. You're reacting to the gap between what you're perceiving and what's being presented. When all these systems run simultaneously for extended periods without proper maintenance, something else emerges: the perfectionist critic. This is like a quality control program that activates when your processing power is overwhelmed. Suddenly, nothing you do feels good enough. Every accomplishment comes with a list of ways it could have been better. The perfectionist critic isn't about external validation. You could do something amazing and get praised by everyone, and this internal voice still whispers, "Yeah, but you know what you did wrong." It's about the gap between your vision of how things should be and how they actually turned out. And that gap almost never closes to your satisfaction. This perfectionist system actually drives you to achieve remarkable things. You become the person who revises work 20 times, who remembers to follow up on promises from conversations months ago, who notices broken systems and actually fixes them, who cares about doing things right, not just doing things fast. But it also makes you your own worst critic. You'll replay conversations from weeks ago, cringing at something you said. You'll remember moments of awkwardness from years ago and feel shame about them. You'll judge yourself for imperfections in ways that would devastate you if the criticism came from someone else. The real challenge of system integration is learning that running all these processes simultaneously is both your greatest strength and your biggest vulnerability. When managed properly, this combination makes you incredibly perceptive, strategic, and effective. When overwhelmed, it can lead to analysis paralysis, perfectionist torture, and emotional burnout. Mature integration means recognizing when your systems are approaching capacity and taking action before they crash. It means learning to trust the consensus of your internal processes while also protecting yourself from information overload. The operating manual. Understanding how your system works is only half the battle. The real breakthrough comes when you learn to operate it strategically, instead of letting it run you into the ground. First, you need to accept that alone time isn't optional for you. It's system maintenance. When you're constantly processing social data streams, emotional states, and future scenarios, your brain needs dedicated downtime to clear its cache and reset. This isn't antisocial behavior. It's necessary maintenance for high-performance psychological hardware. Learn to recognize your capacity warning signs. When you start feeling overwhelmed by simple decisions, that's your system approaching overload. When you begin snapping at people you care about, that's emotional buffer overflow. When you catch yourself catastrophizing about minor situations, that's your future mapping engine running too many scenarios simultaneously. Here's something most people don't understand about your energy management. Surface level connections actually drain your system faster than deep, authentic relationships. Small talk requires more processing power because you're simultaneously managing social performance, analyzing authenticity levels, and suppressing your natural depth. One genuine conversation with someone real will energize you more than 10 polite interactions with acquaintances. This is why your social circle tends to be small, but incredibly meaningful. You're not antisocial, you're energy efficient. You've learned that investing deeply in fewer people gives you better returns than spreading yourself thin across dozens of shallow connections. Strategic solitude becomes your secret weapon. When you honor your need for processing time instead of fighting it, you actually become more effective in social situations. You show up with clearer judgment, better emotional regulation, and sharper intuition because your systems have had time to recalibrate. The key insight is that your 3 parallel processes work best when they're not constantly overwhelmed with new input. Give them space to integrate what they've already processed, and they'll serve you brilliantly. Ignore their need for maintenance, and they'll eventually crash, taking your emotional stability with them. So that's your system. 3 parallel processes running constantly, analyzing everything around you. This isn't a personality flaw or something that needs fixing. You're operating advanced psychological hardware that most people don't possess. Stop apologizing for needing maintenance time and start honoring the sophisticated system you're running. If this resonated, subscribe for more insights into how your mind actually works. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos, where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.